backwater. So somebody's like, we're going to try this backwater solar system, and then it fails.
There are urban explorers on our planet that is like so rampant that like people go to like Chernobyl, for instance, just to like take pictures of how awesome it is. I would find it so hard to believe that like if there were this alien race and they're like, hey, there's this derelict, hotel that had this awesome view in this backwater place that like nobody really goes to, that nobody would be like, hey, let's go there. Yeah. And then be like, oh, weird, there's this radio signal coming from this planet over here. How weird is that?
They might have just hung out there for a while, and then when they detected signs of intelligent life on planet Earth, they decided to vacate.
Maybe, I don't know. I mean, I just think that if there were a alien species out there that had put a hotel that close to us that recently, I mean, like, so really.
How do you know it's a hotel and not, say, like a brothel?
I don't.
I mean, yeah.
He's not the one making this theory up here.
Some big leaps of, and big assumptions here.
Yeah. Well, that having been said, that is the end of the theories as to why these spheres are what they are. We've got natural formations. We've got that they were the remnants of some form of life on this planet before us. We've got the moon of Saturn theory. There's all kinds of stuff going on here. Oh, and meteorites. Can't forget about meteorites.
Oh, yeah.
No, you cannot.
And, I mean, these are probably the top 5. I found a lot of more sidebar threads that go into some theories as to what these are. But, again, it just would take so long to just go through all of them. Mm-hmm. But that's...
What about, like, alien Pokemon pieces or something like that?
I think that would be the remnants of a prior civilization. They were children's toys. They were Happy Meal toys. Mm-hmm. They were all dumped in one area. That's what it was.
It was the Earth is the ocean of a different alien race.
Mm-hmm. They just come here and dump their garbage off.
Yeah.
So what do you guys? I mean, what's your preferred theory here on this one?
Well, I can't really. I can't choose one over the other. I mean, they're all equally believable. Well, not really. I'll go with the geologists who say that this is natural concretion formations. Mm-hmm. It seems pretty blatantly obvious. And of course, it might be that once again that Halliburton and Big Tobacco successfully pulled the wool over my eyes. But it seems like with the facts at our fingertips so far, that looks like the most plausible theory.
Yeah.
Because I feel obligated to provide
representation.
Yeah, I feel again.
Your alien
I'm going to say once again, aliens advocate. I think it's the arc theory. I like that theory a lot. I mean, I know that you put it in there because you knew that I would like it.
It's a fun theory.
It's a good. I mean, and again, I think that like one of the big mysteries that we are always trying to solve as human beings is where did we come from, right? Mm-hmm. Because I think there's this like innate feeling that like, well, we couldn't have been a product of billions of years of evolution. And everybody, of course everybody says like, yeah, no, we were evolution. It's fine. But there's always that feeling of like, but there must be something a little bit more, right? Like there's something like a little extra there about us. And I feel like this is a great kind of a little something extra about us. So alien arc.
Yeah, it's alien arc. They dropped a bunch of microbes on the planet, and next thing you know. Mm-hmm. So here's the thing. They're kind of like pot growers, illegal pot growers that go out to the national forest and drop a bunch of seeds.
Maybe that's it. Maybe that's why we haven't been visited.
Well, what I'm saying is that
we haven't been harvested yet.
They're going to come back for the harvest here pretty quick. So I would say everybody, all of our listeners, buy guns, lots of ammo.
Oh, jeez.
What do you think, Steve?
If I have to choose, I'm going to go with natural formations. Yeah. Although I could also see meteorites being a plausible one. But after that, it gets too far for me.
Well, and again, this is one of those quintessential, like, out-of-place artifacts, right? In that I could almost see natural formation, but for a few details, right? Mm-hmm. I could almost see this, but for a few details. So I think that's, again, that's what makes it an unsolved mystery.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the difficulty with this.
Yeah.
Well, but we're not about unsolved mysteries. We're about solving unsolved mysteries.
You're wrong.
And
You're wrong.
Not today, buddy.
I think we solved it.
No.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
if you want to take a look at the image or two of these spheres, or you want to go ahead and follow some of the links that we've got.
We'll also have a picture of a basketball out there if you don't know what a sphere is.
You can find that all on our website. That website is thinkingsidewayspodcast.com. You're going to give us a listen on iTunes because that seems to be where everybody's coming from. When you're on iTunes, do go ahead and take the time to subscribe, leave a comment, leave a rating. We always like to hear those and see those things. Appreciate it. If you forget to download a show and you're running around and you know new ones come out, you can always find us on Stitcher and listen to it there on your mobile device, streaming it right there. You can find us and like us on Facebook. And of course, if you've got something that you want to say to us about this episode, whether it's an agreement, a disagreement, or just you want to suggest something completely different, you are more than welcome to do that. You can send us an email. That email address, as always, is thinkingsidewayspodcast@gmail.com. Okay, well, that having been said, is all that we've got on this one. So,
Wow.
Well,
it's still rolling around, but I still don't have an answer to it.
no, I think we solved it. But I do want to say, if you are a Klerksdorf, or excuse me, if you are a Klerksdorf sphere, please contact us. We want to hear your story.
I guess that's a thing, right? Is we didn't think about fossils.
No, we didn't.
It could have been animal droppings.
It was aliens.
Okay.
It could have been alien droppings.
Right. It's time to go, guys.
No,
All right.
it was aliens.
Bye.
Bye.
Aliens. This episode of Thinking Sideways is not brought to you by A Vault Full of Garys. Instead, it is brought to you by Dark Matter. From the author of the Wayward Pines trilogy, Blake Crouch, comes a new sci-fi thriller called Dark Matter, which tells the story of Jason Desson, a brilliant physicist who is abducted and knocked unconscious by a masked man. When Jason wakes up, his life is radically different from the one he knew, and he's achieved something he never dreamed possible. But how did he get there? What happened to his old life? Jason's search for answers leads him on a strange journey and puts him in the crosshairs of a seemingly unbeatable foe. So pick up a copy of Dark Matter by Blake Crouch, now in paperback, and available everywhere books are sold. And by CrimeCon, Indianapolis, Indiana, June 9th to the 11th. Pet dogs, meet us, get tickets. Don't forget, it's crimecon.com, and promo code is Sideways20 for 20% off your tickets.
Thinking Sideways.
I don't get it.
I brought the aliens.
You must unlearn what you have learned.
I don't know.
Stories of things we simply don't know the answer to.
Hi there. Welcome to another episode of Thinking Sideways. I'm Joe, joined this week, as always, by
Devin
and
Steve.
And we're here to solve another cool mystery. This is one that's bedeviled the world for almost 3 decades now.
It's made me look like an idiot.
Yeah, no, I've tried to break this mystery and had no luck.
Not me.
No,
I
you've
try
not
to
even
admit
tried?
my ignorance and things like
You know
this.
better.
So,
You didn't
yeah,
even-
I know
you-
better.
Yeah,
Didn't even try.
yeah, no, that's okay. By the end of the episode, we will have solved it, so don't
Uh-huh.
worry about that. This has been around for 26 and a half years right now, and it holds supposedly the maybe possibly a secret to a hidden treasure. Well, we really don't know.
Or maybe something.
Or something.
Or
yeah.
maybe nothing.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe just a note or something like that. I don't know. We'll find out at the end. So first of all, let me say what we're talking about here. We're talking about none other than Kryptos. And you've probably heard about that. That's a sculpture at the CIA in Langley, Virginia.
Yep.
Yeah, Kryptos. And
Big thing.
if you haven't heard about it, well, you've heard about it now. And also a little shout out to a few of our listeners. Actually, several have suggested this. I think Rona and Sean, Linda, Alex,
And that's how far we got before we started saying.
Yeah, and
Dude,
everybody
that's
else.
such an old request.
Yeah. So thanks, guys. We really appreciate the suggestion. And for my part, I've been doing a little too much murder and mayhem lately, so I thought I'd take a break and do something different. And next time, I'll go back to some grisly murders. But yeah, let's do cryptography. Yeah. Why not?
Fall off the wagon.
Yeah. Well, let's go back to the beginning. In the late 1980s, the brass at the CIA decided the agency was missing something, like operational security, or maybe better intel, or employees who weren't Russian moles. Maybe. Oh no, that wasn't it. No, they didn't have any publicly funded art installations, and so they decided they commissioned one, and they hired a sculptor named Jim Sanborn to create this sculpture. And actually, I think the government in this case got pretty good bang for its buck.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Better than DIA, for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Or that one that's just a rock.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's that one downtown outside Pioneer Place, which is several rocks in a row. It's like, well, how do I get that job? Yeah, you give me the money, the $100,000. I will give you the sculpture.
Oh my God, he just did an accent that wasn't German.
No, it was the French accent.
It was a German-French accent.
Anyway, sorry.
Apologies to our French listeners.
And our German listeners.
Yeah, well, at the time this was commissioned, this was toward the end of the Cold War, although we didn't really know it at the time. The Berlin Wall was still standing, and as far as any of us knew, because I was alive back then, we all thought it was going to stay standing for a lot longer. I mean, we all figured it would come down sooner or later, but when it came down, it was kind of a surprise for all of us.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really was. It was all of a sudden. So something commissioned today by the CIA might be a little more cynical. If it were me, I would create a giant shifty-looking bronze mole with a file folder in his mouth. They probably would show me the door. Yeah.
Yeah, they'd look at your concept, and you'd go into a deep, dark room at the bottom and never come out.
Yeah, go to our waiting room. Yeah, stay there for about 5 years. Jim Sanborn created something more serious, and like I said, the public got good bang for its buck with this one, and it's kept a lot of cryptography nerds busy, and a lot of people are still racking their brains over it, and I mean a lot of people, some very smart people. And of course, journalists have managed to get lots of good news stories out of it over the years. So it's been a win all the way around, I think. And it's still unsolved, or at least part of it is.
So I know what Kryptos looks like. We all in this room, but I think a lot of people probably don't. So
yeah, if you're not near a browser and you can't bring up a picture of it. Yeah, if you're driving.
There's lots of people who drive and listen.
Yeah.
I do it all the time, yeah.
Yeah, so if you're driving, just close your eyes and try to bring this...
Don't listen to Joe. Please open your eyes immediately.
Listen to Joe, but don't close your eyes.
Okay. All right, yeah. If there's no rest area nearby, keep your eyes open. So let me describe it here. If you're standing, and most of the pictures that are taken from one side of it, and that's the side where you can look at the writing and it's correct. It's a bunch of
read from left to right.
Yeah, it's a bunch of, and so when you're looking at it from that side, there is a large petrified log standing upright on its end, on one end, on the right side.
It's what, 8-10 feet tall?
Something like that. Yeah.
It's pretty good size.
Yeah, nice log. I wouldn't mind having that log. Yeah. And then there's a tall copper plate that sort of scrolls out like a sheet of paper, as if it were like a scroll.
And I want to point out, it's real copper, so it's actually green now.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And
so everybody knows.
Yeah. So don't go to Google and look at the picture and say they lied to me.
Yeah.
No, it is really copper, and it scrolls out so if you're standing on this side, it scrolls away from you, and then it goes in a semicircle back towards you, and then it curves away around the other way, so it scrolls around and away from you again. On the one side, facing towards you, it's just marble, it's just like a marble around there. And on the other side of it, of the semicircle loop, whatever, there's a little round pool
in the arc of the S shape that the copper makes.
In the arc of the copper, yeah.
The tail in the bottom.
Yeah, so that actually is kind of like the other end of the scroll that it's wrapping around. If you can imagine that, and it was obvious to me the first time I looked at it that the symbolism, it symbolizes, I think, the division of our world into smoking and non-smoking areas. And really, when you think about it, it makes sense. Because when you're standing on the right side, which is the part that doesn't have the pool in it, you can actually stand inside the sculpture. But if you go on the other side, the smoking side, you can't stand inside it. You have to stand outside, just like smokers do. Yeah,
it's a good theory, Joe.
And the little pool in the center makes a great place to throw your butt.
That is not what it's intended for.
Pretty sure it is.
I like it. Let's get back to our more description. There are letters cut into this copper sheet, about 1,700 or so letters. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And they're actually, like some people said, stamped out. I don't know if they were cut out with a torch or stamped or what, but they go all the way through. So they're not just.
They were probably, knowing the time that it was made, it was probably done with like a water jet or something like that.
Whereas today,
some kind of computer-controlled device to be able to cut them with the precision that they are done.
Yeah, and today it would probably be a laser. Mm-hmm. But, yeah.
Laser.
The laser. Yeah.
Yeah, you're mispronouncing that word, Joe. Gee.
I'm sorry.
The Z
a laser.
Laser.
Laser. Okay. Of course, you can find drawings of the text part of the sculpture online, and I'll describe that real briefly. It's shaped like a rectangle, which is divided into 4 smaller rectangles. The 2 right rectangles show the English alphabet, that's A through Z, repeated over and over again with the word cryptos inserted into the text, which is a big hint, because that actually turns out to be one of the keys for the encryption cipher of the first 2 messages.
Because this whole thing is one giant cipher. We haven't said that yet.
No.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The whole sculpture is a hidden message.
Cipher.
Well, yeah, the left half is the message, and the right half is the key.
Okay.
So the 2 rectangles on the left-hand side. The top, so the top half of, or either the upper left-hand rectangle is encoded with what's called a Vigenère cipher, which is named after a French cryptographer called Blaise de Vigenère. He was a 16th century dude, and actually, he apparently did not invent this method. It was invented by some guy named, what was his name? Giovan Battista Balloso, who invented it also in the 16th century, and then Vigenère modified it several decades later, and then centuries after that, it was misattributed to him, but actually he didn't really invent the concept.
So it's kind of like the light bulb?
Yeah, kind of like that, yeah. But we don't care. It's just called the Vigenère. Yeah. And here's let me give you a real quick rundown of how it works. And now everybody knows what a Caesar cipher is, right?
No.
You don't know what a Caesar cipher is?
I mean, I do, but not everybody
Caesar shift.
does.
Okay. Yeah, Caesar shift is one where it's the easiest and dumbest cipher out there. One where you basically pick a key. The key might be, let's say your key is 1. If I were to say, and you're going to shift everything over 1, and of course if your key is 3, you shift everything over 3 in the alphabet. But let's say it's 1. So I'm encrypting, say, Devin. So Devin, D-E-V-I-N, becomes E-F-W-J-O.
Okay.
Right? Okay.
Yeah.
That's it. Well, and
easy.
so, but those are ridiculously easy to break. And so the Vigenère cipher is in its simplest form, like a Caesar shift, but you pick a key. Let's pick a word like, say, bacon, and that we make that our key. And so we shift the first character by 2 because B is 2. And then the next one is A, so we shift the next one by 1. The next one is C, so we shift the next one after that by 3, which is for C, and on. And then we start it over again, shifting from 2, 1, 3, blah, blah, and then shift to 2, 1, 3. But of course, again, that leaves a big pattern. But that's in its simplest form, that's a Vigenère cipher. Now, what they did here is a little craftier one. This is one where, to do this one, here's what you do. You sit down and write down the whole alphabet, A through Z. And in this one, they use the word cryptos for the first key, for the top key. So write the word cryptos to the left of your alphabet, and then go through your alphabet and take out every. And so that's it. Cryptos, A through Z, missing those letters. What you do is you're going to repeat this alphabet underneath that as many times as the length of your key. So the first part of the message used the key palimpsest, which is 10 characters, so 10 rows. But what you do is the first row starts at P. So that's how they're all shifted around. So palimpsest, P. So it starts with the P in cryptos and goes all the way through, and at the end, KRY from cryptos is addended to the end of it. The next one is A. So it just starts right at A, and then cryptos. Next one is L, so it starts L through Z, and then it says cryptos, and then A through J.
Okay, so I'm going to ask a question that I think I know the answer to, but I want to make sure. So you said the key to this is cryptos, but
palimpsest is the second key.
Oh, so it's a 2-key cipher.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the part you didn't say, and I was making sure that I wasn't missing. Okay.
Yeah, and so essentially what you do is let's say I want to encrypt. No, we don't want to encrypt Devin. That's too many letters. We'll encrypt Joe. I like that one. So Joe. So the first line in this one, J is N. and then you go to the top line, you pick out your letters, and then go down. So the first one is the first line, J. Second letter, O, is the second line, so I go to O, and that goes down to the second row, which is F. And this is going to be incomprehensible to you people who are just listening, then I go over to the E, and I go down to the third line, and that is Y. So that is how my name is encrypted. And then what I do is when I want to decrypt the message, I come back through, and since this is and I know that since I'm decrypting it, and I'm not a cryptographer, I'm actually the intended recipient, I know the two keys. That's the beauty of this system, is that since you know, it's easy to remember two words.
Yeah.
And so the guy that gets this message, he doesn't have to carry a code book around him. He can just sit down and write the whole thing out because he knows those keys. And then when he's done deciphering the message, he could just burn his key that he's created. And
so for everybody listening, I know that this can be kind of tough to understand. There's a great book out there, and Joe, help me with this.
Was it the code book?
Yes.
Yeah.
Is that the actual title of it?
Yeah, it was called the code book, and I can't remember who wrote it.
We talked about it about 3 years ago when we did the last Cypher episode. The code book is a great book to at least go through. He does a much better job of making this kind of stuff palatable to the layman, and that would be a book I'd recommend to look through.
Yeah, it really is kind of hard to make this totally understandable because it's a very visual thing. I mean, I've got this table right in front of me, and it's very easy for me. You guys would have it too. So.
I have it in front of me, and it's not easy.
I was going to say I have it in front of me, and I do not understand it at all. But the good news is I don't try to decipher messages like this.
Yeah, no, but here's the beauty part of it. So now we know that my name as encrypted here is NFY, right? NFY. So I go back and I do my name. I do my name out. I go to the first line, and I go over to the N, and then I go up to that's not the first line. The first line, the top line is the decryption line. So it'd actually be the second line, but it's the first keyed line. So, and have I confused you yet? You bet I have. But I go over to the N, and then I go up to the top line, and yep, there's a J. Then I go down for the second letter. I go down to the second line down here, and I go to the F, and I go up to the top line. Whoop, it says O. And then I go down to the third line, and I go over to the Y, and go up to the first line, and there it is, an E. And so I know my message says Joe. So that's how you decrypt
I don't know why he bothers to put things in code to us when he writes emails, because I know that if I spend the time to decode it, it just says Joe is awesome over and over and over.
I know, that's all it is.
Different kinds of ciphers.
Yeah. So that's how the first cipher.
The first cipher.
Sorry, how?
How
do
did
you know
somebody
that?
decrypt?
Yeah.
How what?
How do we know that?
How do we know that that's what it is? Well, actually, because some people broke the cipher.
The first one?
Yeah, they did.
Okay.
And actually, there were two messages, and so two different ciphers. I mean, they were both Visionaire ciphers, but with different keys.
Okay.
And so that whole part of it, and then it gets a little trickier when you get to the second rectangle down, the lower left. But the top part of the message is two messages, as I said. The first one says, between subtle shading and the absence of light lies the nuance of occlusion. And there were intentional, apparently, misspellings in the text. So
I question how intentional that
Agreed.
is.
It's always entirely
based
possible.
on things that we discovered later on. I think in the third one, or maybe it's the second one, but I really feel like maybe that wasn't intentional.
Well, there was at least one intentional boo-boo, or unintentional boo-boo that was in there that caused the second part of the text to be misinterpreted for
Which is
quite a
why
while.
I questioned his statement of, I did that on purpose.
Yeah, I know. I mean, you would hope that you wouldn't have typos in something and a very expensive thing that you're carving. So you would hope you wouldn't screw up. I think it's possible he did. He said that he intentionally misspelled a couple of words, and also that he left a letter or two out.
See, this is too soon to talk about this.
Yeah,
we'll
let's keep talking about
later.
the cipher.
Yeah. Okay. Well, the second one, which the key for that one was, by the way, abscissa, which is one of those obscure little words. The first element of an ordered pair. Now, like for example, palimpsest. A palimpsest is supposedly hinted at by the shape of the sculpture itself. It's shaped like a scroll. Mm-hmm. And a palimpsest is that which has been recorded over or written over. And so the earliest scroll, because writing materials were kind of scarce back in the day, often the scroll that was no longer used for much of anything would be scraped off, and the characters would be scraped off of it, and then people could write over it again, and that's what a palimpsest is. So a palimpsest, in its earliest form, was a scroll. And so apparently, so that's the whole thing. It's like, well, don't you see the hint there, the big hint? It's a scroll, therefore a palimpsest. For me, it was like, yeah, right. I mean, I can see it now in retrospect, of course, but how somebody was expected to guess that, before decoding it, well, for Christ's sakes, give me a break. Yeah, there's a lot of little hints like this, at least in supposedly, well, people say that the word abscissa, the second key, was hinted at in the first message. Well, I'm not seeing that, and I've read the decoded first message, and I'm not seeing it in there, but, whatever. I mean, these people must be a lot smarter than me, I guess. Let's look at this second message. Here's what it is. It says it was totally invisible. How's that possible? They used the Earth's magnetic field. The information was gathered and transmitted underground misspelled, to an unknown location. Does Langley know about this? They should. It's buried out there somewhere. Who knows the exact location? Only WW. By the way, this WW was William Webster.
He was in charge at the time.
Director of the CIA at the time. This was his last message. Here the message gives some coordinates, which turn out to map to a spot about 150 feet southeast of the sculpture. And then that's followed at that point by two more words, which are Layer 2. And nobody knows what the significance of Layer 2 is yet. Maybe it'll all become clear someday. And so, yeah, it's unfortunate when you decode the messages. They're really not all that helpful.
A little vague.
A little vague. Yeah, a little. Yeah. And then we go to the lower rectangle, and there's I think 866 characters. No, in there, something like that. No, actually, 866 is the entire left-handed sculpture, so about half of that.
You counted?
So about 433 right in there, yeah. These, at least the first part of it, the first maybe three-quarters of it was encrypted with a totally different system. It was something called columnar transposition. And
this is mind-boggling.
Yeah, and especially how somebody could figure it out and decrypt it. Yeah, it really is. It took me a little while to actually understand this, and I actually was eventually able to figure it out. But yeah, it's tricky. And so imagine this. So if you want to encrypt a message, you take your text, take all the punctuation and spaces out, put it in a Word document, so it's at least 3 or 4 lines, and you want to use a font like Courier.
Mono-spaced.
Exactly. Nothing with proportional spacing. You want every character to occupy the same amount of space, right? And then you print it onto a sheet of paper, and then you cut the text. You cut the text out into columns. So you got, like, say, 4 lines. So you got all these little snippets of paper that have 4 vertical letters on them, right?
And all of the columns are the same width.
Yeah.
So four letters wide.
No. They're 1 letter wide. 1 letter wide and 4 letters high.
Oh, okay. I thought it was into group. The columns were grouped. Okay, I took it wrong. No. Got it.
Yeah, and you don't. So you cut out all these columns, and then in this particular case, what you do is you step through backwards. In this particular case, they chose to have 86 character lines. They step through backwards 7 characters at a time. So starting at the beginning with the first character, they step backwards 7, which took them to column 81. And then so you pull that snippet of paper out, set it next to the first one, and then go back 7 more, which is column 74. You pull that one out, set it next to the first one, and just keep doing that over, keep going around and around and around through the message until you've essentially rearranged all the columns in this pattern, right? Then take all your little snippets of paper and rotate them 90 degrees clockwise and glue them all together end to end.
Oh, my God. Right?
And then, at the end of all that, then cut it somewhere in the middle. And in this particular case, this text actually ended with a question mark. And when it was done rearranging everything, the question mark was about halfway through, a little more than halfway. So that's where they cut it. So this question mark wound up at the end of the encrypted text again. So they cut it right after the question mark, and they swapped the front and the back halves. And there you have it. That's your encrypted text. So,
so I see the look on Devin's face. So I'm going to put this in simpler terms. Yeah. You take a can of alphabet soup.
Yeah.
And you pour it on the ground and you read it. That's how this works.
Got it. Okay.
That's about it. Well, yeah. So the contrast between the two systems is in the first half, the letters are all in the right place, but they don't mean the same thing. It's the wrong letter, right? You got to. Whereas in this case, none of the letters have actually been encrypted. They've just been rearranged.
Mm-hmm.
And so the letters are all in clear text, but good luck figuring it out.
Technically.
Technically, well, yeah.
Can this might be a dumb question, but here we are. Who made these ciphers? Did the artist make the cipher?
No, actually, there was a guy who was the chief of the cryptography department at the CIA at the time.
So he made them.
Yeah, well, essentially, he and the artist sat down. I think that Jim Sanborn wanted to create these riddles because and then encrypt them. And so there was a collaborative project between the two of them as how to encrypt these things.
Got it.
So
I was thinking this was a kind of big undertaking for somebody who's an artist.
Well,
I mean, not that artists can't be, smart, but
yeah. Well, you never know. Sometimes people have hobbies too. There are people out there who do one thing, and cryptography is their hobby. So but he had a little help with this.
So what did that cipher end up being? Was it broken?
Yeah, this one was broken, and again, this is up to character 768 out of 866.
Okay.
So, and this is what's called K1 through K3. So the first two messages are in the top left rectangle, and then about 3/4 of the bottom left are K3. And then below that is what's called K4.
Okay.
That's what hasn't been broken yet.
Okay, but what did K3 say?
This last one, and nobody knows why quite yet, but it was taken from the diary of Howard Carter, who is an archaeologist who opened King Tut's tomb in 1922. And so he had this thing where he described, the opening of the tomb. So here it is, as deciphered. The doorway was removed with trembling hands. I made a tiny breach in the upper left-hand corner, and then widening the hole a little, I inserted the candle and peered in the hot air escaping from the chamber, caused the flame to flicker, but presently details of the room within emerged from the mist. X. Can you see anything? Q. Question mark. Some little random characters thrown in there for some strange reason.
Well, he does it. You will see in the translations of this text, in random places there are X's in the text, and those appear to be used as periods.
Sort of.
Or breaks.
They sort of mark breaks between sentences, but they're not consistently used.
You're right, and I was wondering what the heck was going on with that when I noticed that.
Well, a lot of people have wondered about that too. I mean, again, we rely on Sanborn to tell us the truth,
right?
And if like you say, he screwed up and he doesn't want to admit it. Well, hopefully he'd be truthful enough and honest enough, because he actually did make one error that he's admitted to, and he claims the rest were deliberate.
I guess part of me thinks that maybe he doesn't actually know. If he's not the one who actually, he worked in conjunction with somebody to create the cipher, but
and that person did.
It's totally possible that person was like, all right, this says what you wanted it to say, and he doesn't know.
Well, yeah, I think what happened is Sanborn was required to actually give them the contents of the messages along with the encryption techniques that he used. So I think what happened is he got trained up. They picked out a few really good cipher techniques, and then he got trained up in it, and then he encrypted the messages himself, and then he had to hand those over to the CIA, because essentially what they wanted to do was they wanted to know that he wasn't putting something in there kind of like,
CIA is a bunch of jerks.
Yeah, and so, they wanted to know what the contents were so they wouldn't be embarrassed when
he did all of the...
As far as I know, he did the encryption himself.
Okay.
Yeah, and so what I'm wondering, what other people have wanted this too, is that given these strange little glitches, the weird things with the X's, moving characters around and stuff, if perhaps there isn't another cipher within that cipher.
I was going to say, yeah.
Yeah, the deciphered message might itself contain some other ciphered enciphered message.
And I presume that people, since, K4 isn't solved yet, I presume that people have tried to get some kind of cipher code from the other three that might decode the 4.
Oh, yeah.
And that hasn't worked, obviously.
Obviously, no, it hasn't. Supposedly, there are hints to the solution of K4 in the previous 3, but he hasn't said what exactly these hints are.
But the problem, if I understand correctly, with K4 is that it is so short.
Yeah, exactly.
One of the problems.
Well, so K4 is what? It's
97 characters.
Yeah, it's less than 100 characters long, which the longer a cipher is, the more clues you can gather by patterns that are generated.
Patterns. Yeah, exactly.
But when it's such a short thing, without the key, you're pretty hosed.
Yeah, you kind of are. It does lend itself a little bit better to what they call brute force attacks. Mm-hmm. You know, where you just basically throw everything at it, and this only really works well if you have a computer to do it with.
Yeah.
Do it by yourself, you'll go insane. But with a computer, you can actually do a brute force attack pretty easily.
Which people have now done.
Oh yeah, for sure. And as computers get faster, our brute force attacks get faster
Yeah,
too.
Watson hasn't taken this on yet, or?
That's a good question. Why not?
I don't know.
This does seem like a good job for an AI, doesn't it? Yeah.
Because it's the rise in the machines. They don't want him to know the answer.
Good point. Yeah, we don't want him to know how to code stuff. He said he could do stuff in secret and then swap it
Yeah,
with other
because
AIs.
I'm sure Watson doesn't know how to do that already.
Yeah, he hasn't figured that out.
Definitely not.
Yeah.
He's so dumb.
Yeah. Jeez.
I sure hope with all the AIs that we're creating, I sure hope they've just got some guy standing there 24/7.
They have a kill switch.
Yeah, no, you don't want a kill switch. You just want a power. You want like an outlet in the wall, and you want the guy to just jerk the cord.
That's
out.
what I mean.
Yeah,
Just flip the fuse.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Supercomputers, ultra intelligent, artificial intelligence runs the entire world plugged into a 110-volt plug in the wall.
Yeah. Some dude could accidentally trip over it
and just destroy all of our infrastructure.
Wouldn't that be hilarious? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It sounds like that's what's going to happen.
Yeah. So K4 totally unsolved. Totally unsolved.
It is unsolved. Yeah. Let me go back for a second to the solution of the first three. The first three were cracked in 1999 by a computer scientist named Jim Galagli, who used a computer. He was a California computer scientist.
What?
I know. And but then the CIA rained all over his parade by announcing that one of their employees had solved the first three pieces in 1998, the year before. His name was Dave Stein. And also they made clear that even though they had employees that had been working on this, they weren't using company time. They just did it on their own time.
Of course.
Mm-hmm.
So he said he just did it over the course of about 400 lunch hours working on this sculpture. And then the NSA announces that, hey, three of their guys had totally solved the whole first three messages in 1995. That's what they said.
Sure.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
That was
by the way, actually, I solved it in 1988.
Yeah, I did too. No, I solved it in 1990, the day after they put it up. But,
and the funny thing is that if you read some of the stuff from the CIA and the NSA, they're really kind of poking at Jim Galagli, is that how you say it? Because, we did it all by hand. And you just don't get the same joy and blah, blah, blah. It was really funny, the writing that just took a total dig at this guy using a computer to do it.
I think the computer was the smart way to go myself. The rest
it didn't take 400 lunch hours.
No, exactly. The thing about doing it by hand is cryptography, there's a lot of bean counting going on. All that stuff is just rote stuff. Like, say, if you're just doing a Caesar cipher, the simplest thing possible, and you just have to add, say, 3.